This brings us up to the budget. No one's favorite topic, but the topic on everyone's mind. What are your number one priorities in budgeting, in managing the budget in times of diminishing resources? Ms. Fernandez, we start with that difficult question with you.
Well, thank you. I think the board has been quite careful lately, in particular, in looking at a careful use of the resources that are there. Nevertheless, the situation is very difficult, and it is anticipated, from what I see from the last board meeting, to be much worse in the future. So reserves will have to be strategically and very carefully used partially.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It is hard. A minute is never enough.
No.
Mr. Thompson.
Well, the easy, obvious answer is to try and not affect the classroom as much as possible, protect the classroom. As you look at the statistics, the one I want to learn more about is the balance of budget towards administration versus the classroom. And that's hard to tease out, and I turn to Sally, I think, for help, because she probably knows more than anybody else in the room about that. But the statistics I've looked at suggest that we put less money into our teaching staff here on average compared to other basic aid districts in the state. And so that's one place I'd look. But the strategic use of reserves is important, obviously, or the prudent use of reserves, also tapping federal funding that should be available to us.
Mr. Sarver.
As Chris mentioned, keeping cuts away from the classroom is absolutely critical. We've got to be fighting every way we can to minimize the impact of these shortages on the students. We need to be making our cuts very judiciously in such a way that they take away the least amount and they are as reversible as possible. You can't kill a program and then bring it back easily. You can cut it a little bit and then reinflate it. On the revenue side, we need to be looking at everything we can do. Foundations, grants, and parcel taxes as possible.
Ms. Injasulian.
I love statistics. I didn't mention I teach AP statistics at my Stanford New Schools, and one of the things we talk about in my class is hard times are an opportunity. And my school gets better every day because this is the toughest thing we've ever seen. My number one priority would be to eliminate waste and duplication of effort. Number two is to take problem areas and make them our greatest strengths, because that's the most transformative process you can have in a budget. And absolutely instruction first, but let's not be tied to things that are not working, and win-win partnerships.
Ms. Corrali.
Having served on 2 foundation boards, including the Sequoia High School Education Foundation, I understand the importance of fundraising and prioritizing spending to save programs. But what we have here is also $227 million of bond obligations, and that money was entrusted by the voters to the trustee. So utilizing that and maximizing that as a resource, since categorical funding will be reduced and has been reduced, will be absolutely important. So developing our CTE programs, continuing to bring technology into the classrooms, using energy conservation methods in our construction projects, and building the small high school in East Palo Alto are things that we need to focus on with our bond money.
Ms. Green.
First of all, I'd like to say I'd like to collaborate with the staff and unions to ensure that the budget constraints are shared equally to preserve critical programs within Sequoia. I plan to spend down or borrow from the reserves, create and develop ways to repay the spending of the reserves until federal funds can be reserved. I also like to introduce our parents to the matching programs for corporations and our PTA associations, our foundations. We need to really connect with those on a more heavier basis.
And last on this topic, Mr. Ferrando.
One of the things I'd like to achieve is having a budget by school and by the district office, so we can better identify where the line items are being spent and how much is being spent at each school. After doing that, I think we can make the strategic cuts that we need to and not severely impact the classroom. So the goal, of course, would be to reduce waste, but I think that's better identified once we know how much we're spending by line item, by school.